Hello everyone, I'm Natasha Howitt, that's my surname. Nice to virtually meet you. I'm currently recording this little video from the tropical paradise city that is Singapore, where I'm currently working. I'm a television producer at an international news agency. I work in general news. Let me start by saying it's an absolute pleasure to be given the opportunity to chat away with you for the Third Culture Summit, the Change Schools Third Culture Summit. The third culture concept is very dear to me. I basically discovered its relevance, without sounding too cheesy, when I went through what would best be described as a personal identity crisis. So apart from that, why am I talking here? Why am I getting involved? I believe this summit, or this grand chat that we're all having, is extremely important. And the most important aspect to me is the positivity. I believe the dialogue surrounding third culture as a concept has been bogged down for a while with the sufferings of those who identify with it, such as lack of a clear home, depression, the pain of not fitting in, the pain of distance. And of course, discussing these downsides is extremely important and should not stop. The sufferings are really real. But I do feel that our next step is to recognize and harness the strengths of being third culture. And I believe the theme this month, celebrating uniqueness, is rather fitting to this belief. And I think it is all the more important to begin this positive discussion because we are a growing collection of people and increasingly diverse. The third culture concept was initially developed out of looking at people from a more missionary and diplomatic background. This has changed. I am a product of global capitalism. I moved because my father worked in shipping. Now we just need to take a look at the babies on the Greece-Macedonia border to realize that our concept of third culture is likely to morph much, much more beyond our current understanding and in ways perhaps we cannot fully comprehend. Perhaps even aligning itself more with the concept of global citizenship, but that's a discussion for another day. So apart from being positive, what is it that I want to achieve out of this talk today? I want to highlight how we should all be sharing more and actively and consciously working to create a global network that allows us to have the identity that we personally believe that we have. Sort of we own our identity and are permitted to do so. And in order to do that, we need to be being more open. We need to be getting the conversation flowing. So in order to demonstrate that, I am first going to go into how this discussion is going to keep changing along with our own personal experiences. It's a journey, we're a work in progress. Our understanding of identities changes as we learn more about our own, and I think this only serves to strengthen the argument that we need to keep sharing. I am then going to go into my personal journey and how my experiences have made me think we need to create a more established global network. Then I will talk about how I think we should be viewing identities, which is a collection of experiences unique to ourselves and not bound to the borders of a nation state. I will then talk about what a global citizen mindset is to me, or what it means to think globally. And to conclude, I will talk about why celebrating unique identities in this way is important. So, to start, I think the key to developing a global mindset is being aware of what one is and personally seeking to reach that. I think it's a journey. I think I developed an awareness of a global mindset, an awareness meaning it's a goal to get, it's a journey, through my personal struggles to understand who I am. It encouraged me to study the concept of identities in more detail, both academically and personally, and it pushed me to do something about it, to become social, bring people together. Obviously, this is a work in progress, and I think pushing for positivity, as the theme this month is trying to do, is the way that we recover from some of the more difficult parts of being third culture. And when I say third culture, I mean global nomad, global citizen, all those labels that we use. We shouldn't be escaping from the negatives, we should be letting them guide us. We are all a work in progress, and this conversation is going to keep changing along with us. I just finished reading a book, A Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion, however you say it. It's about grief. After finishing the book, though, I turned to the front of to read the review quotes. And the New Yorker had written that this book is about getting a grip and getting on. And to me, this was not at all the lesson. In fact, I was kind of horrified. To me, the book was about someone not about someone getting a grip. It was about someone picking up a pen or a laptop and sharing and being open about the unique and rich memories and experiences that she had had. And by doing this, she began to see the light. And I think this is something I believe we can all learn from. I think TCKs frequently grieve, and I think we should be sharing and celebrating our experiences in order for us to realize our value and to appreciate the ever-changing journey that working out who we really are really is. So what's my personal journey? I was born in the UK to a British father and an Anglo-Argentine mother. I have family all over the world. I moved to Singapore with my parents when I was 8, and I basically stayed here until I was 18, which makes me a little different to some TCKs. But from a very young age, I was entirely immersed in an international environment. After international school, I worked in Singapore, studied in Beijing, did some outdoor education work in Malaysia, traveled around Southeast Asia, traveled around Europe, which, by the way, was totally enlightening. Having been told I was European, I then went to Europe and discovered I really knew nothing about Europe or anything. I barely knew what pasta was, and it opened up a whole new world to me, which was totally enlightening. The problem with this year out, basically, was that I was totally racked with anxiety about who I was. I was meeting people who were so confident about who they were and where they're from and where they belong, that it actually made me question myself. Which is funny because I don't think I ever found this a problem I never questioned myself when I was surrounded by the international people at my school. I think we were all accepted for who we were. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is a figment of my imagination or memory, but I really feel that this questioning only happened when I entered the real world and realized that I was a minority. That question that many third culture kids hate, where are you from? It was a total nightmare. You find yourself justifying why you're from Singapore, why you're from England, why you're from Argentina, and everyone's like, pick one, and you're like, I can't. And then I went to the UK for university, and this struggle or this identity crisis continued. And I really struggled to fit in my first year. I basically had been the English girl, and that being a label, at my international school, and the label didn't really have much meaning. I don't think we knew what that meaning of that label was when I was at school. But then I turned up in England, and no one recognized my accent, my dress sense, my attitude, my history, and I realized that label had lost meaning to me, and that was very confusing. I then discovered that the problems I was facing were likely to do with the fact that I was a third culture kid. And I went on a mission, and I really mean a mission. I was so determined to build up a third culture society at the university, bringing people from everywhere together. I was also determined to make sure that they weren't only third culture kids so that we didn't appear elite. And this works, by the way. It is entirely possible. But the society obviously filled a void because it was really popular. And I really loved it, and I ended up loving university by the end. We basically got everyone together to do all sorts of things, and the main goal being to have fun, and it worked in that it becomes a knowledge-sharing society, it becomes a support network, it becomes all sorts of things in turn. I then went off to Beijing, and I did a master's, international relations, by the way, and I focused very much on identity. And I went back to the UK and studied in London for another master's. I set up a Third Culture London Society there for young professionals, not just students, bringing it out of the student world, which I think is really important. And we had some fantastic evenings. The society is still ongoing, so anyone in London who wants to get involved, please let me know. I will drop me a message and I'll connect you, or just search for it on Facebook. It's called Third Culture London. So yes, my experience with third culture has therefore revolved around being social and getting out there. And by being social, I mean actively working to share and create a network of people. Being conscious of a push to enrich our experiences by including others in them. And I believe being social allows us to celebrate our unique identities and move this global citizenship discussion forward, which brings us back to the theme of the talk. As third culture kids, we often hold things back, keep secrets, to avoid labels and judgments. And I think this really needs to change. We need to be able to share our experiences, not hide them. And we're the only people who are going to be able to push that cause. So now I want to explain my understanding of the identity of a global citizen and how that makes each and every one of us unique. And I don't just mean the global nomad third culture kid. That was my dog, in case you wondered what that sound was. I mean everyone from everywhere. So someone's national identity is the prime part of their character that we seem to want to know first. We always ask, where are you from? And I think that this is false. I think our identities are far more complex than the national identity permits, yet we are reliant on this question, where are you from, and being able to pinpoint where someone is from. A national identity seems to bind you to a location, a tangible location, and within that location there's culture and lifestyle which take on a more intangible form, but it is inextricably linked to the confines of the nation state and the nation's borders. So my question is, what if we weren't bound? What if we weren't limited to what is culturally expected of us within a certain physical location on the planet? While locations are important, being bound to just one doesn't allow us to fully grow and fully reach our potential. And why doesn't somewhat arbitrary line or border split peoples, communities, and their identities so dramatically? I view this as violent. People on the other side of the border become the other, and they are labeled. Identities are strengthened by divergence, so the part of one's identity that is associated with the nation comes to the forefront. It begins to explain the rest of one's character, even if that isn't otherwise true. The way we eat differs to the way they eat. Their manners are different to our manners, and noticing these differences seems to make us all the more sure of who we are. Why? So what if we took away that framework of tangible locations explaining who we are? What if we said we are a collection of intangible experiences, i.e., we are taking our concept of identity away from the physical and the arbitrary? And I think this is more true. Perhaps we are an amalgamation of cultures, so much so a pin on the map doesn't adequately identify who we are and where we're from. So what does it mean to think globally, and what is a global citizen mindset? For me, I believe it is being free to identify what we feel is true to ourselves, and being able to, crucially, being able to accept that others can do the same thing too, wherever they are from. I think it is about breaking free from the need to label our identities according to tangible locations. We need to break free of borders in order for us to allow us to grow and realize our potential. And the flexibility and the open-mindedness that comes with this, I believe, allows us to bridge boundaries between people from around the world. And that is a global way of thinking. So why is celebrating unique identities in this way important? I think celebrating our uniqueness encourages us to share diverse experiences and to harness power from that. We can create a powerful, pioneering global network, and I think we should be actively doing so. I personally believe if you bring diverse people together seeking to find common ground and common values, your common ground and common values is going to end up being incredibly global, and that's power, that's significant. I can't tell you the number of people who have told me how important third culture groups and societies have been to them, feeling happier about themselves, enjoying university, enjoying London, meeting their closest friends, gaining confidence in who they are. And I really mean it. I can't tell you how many. There's been so many. And I think we should be just talking, sharing, meeting, connecting in order for this conversation to keep growing and going. Having said all this, I do really quickly want to tackle the problem with calling ourselves unique. The importance of celebrating unique identities will not be attainable if we only do it for ourselves, meaning for third culture kids, global nomads. Global citizenship should be for all, and otherwise we're not exactly being global. With this discussion of expressing our uniqueness, our richness, often comes a tendency to feel, or certainly sound like we feel, that we are somewhat elite or enlightened. And this stops us learning. It stops us communicating. It isolates us and defeats the point of advocating to be global. So this brings me to the end, but I do quickly want to pose one question. Should we, third culture kids, global nomads, really be so afraid of asking or answering the question, where are you from? We might be a puzzle, but puzzles are fun. And perhaps we should start celebrating this question. We are always so repulsed by it, but what if we turn it on its head and begin sharing? So in conclusion, let's be positive, let's be social, let's begin creating a support and knowledge sharing network, and let's keep talking. If you fancy setting up a third culture group, please do let me know, student or non-student, because I think the latter is equally important. I can offer tips. If you're in London and want to meet people, please do let me know, because there's the one going strong there. You can comment on this video or tweet me. My Twitter handle is my name with a dot in the middle. Thanks very much for listening to this, especially if you've got this far. Keep watching the Summit's videos, contribute your ideas. Yes, thank you everyone. Bye bye.